So welcome back to Third Rate Content. We're standing here on a busy road junction in Cressage, about 5 miles south of Shrewsbury, on the Shrewsbury Bridge North Road, on the way to Much Wenlock. But we're standing here at what would have been, they say, a long time ago, the site of where Cressage gets its name. In the Old English, it would have been Chrysiac. And here stood an ancient oak tree. Ancient, but it's now gone. And it is said that right here, St. Augustine himself preached on a missionary to England to convert pagans to Christianity. We'll be finding out all about this, a bit about Cressage and its church. You can just see it up the road there. So buckle up and I'll see you out here. So where the stone cross and war memorial are now sited is where the oak tree was originally meant to be. The oak tree was in a forest which is no longer here. Obviously, the lands around here have changed significantly since those times. A sapling was taken from the original oak. The sapling was planted in 1616, but had to be moved due to the railway lines being implemented at a later date. The Christ Oak successor now stands in a field about a mile south of Cressage on the way to Shrewsbury, but it was in between there and Cressage village where St. Sampson's church stood originally, very close to the River Severn. And it was this proximity to the river that caused its problems. It repeatedly flooded. And here is a watercolour by the Reverend Williams. The quite unusual dedication to the Celtic saint, St. Sampson, indicates that Cressage and its church was a very early Celtic Christian site, because it is very unlikely that a dedication to a Celtic saint would have been made after the end of the 7th century, because the Synod of Whitby was in 664, and that determined that henceforth the Roman form of Christianity rather than the Celtic would prevail in England. Samson, or Saint Sampson, came from Wales in the 6th century, and one of his pupils was the monk Gildas, who much of the information about these dark times comes from. Yeah, that house behind me. When I was about 16, I was a trainee plumber for a short while, and one of the jobs we did was refitting that house, and there was in the garage a massive hornet's nest. It's the only time I've ever seen a hornet's nest, but my days as a plumber did not last long for various reasons. On the 30th of June 2012, the Olympic torch passed through Cressage on its way to London and Much Wenlock, where William Penny Brooks resided and was the founder of the modern Olympic Games. So you can see the Eagles pub behind me. The pub has been shut since 2015, so getting on 10 years. It was struggling in the last years of its existence. It shut for a while before that, sort of 2010, 2012-ish, reopened and then shut for good, like I say, in 2015. Yeah, there was work supposed to start here some 7 years ago. Yeah, I've read a blog, Shrewsbury from Where You Are Not, I think it was, that actually in 2017 did visit the abandoned pub and went inside, and there was some interesting graffiti. We're not going to be doing anything like that today because there's all this Harris fencing around the place, but it's interesting that the work hasn't started all these years later. I don't know what the hold up is, obviously probably financial, but yeah, still awaiting it to be developed into housing, like most closed pubs end up being. So here we are at Christchurch Church in Cressage. This building was erected in 1841 after its predecessor, the Church of St Sampson, after being flooded, because it was just the other side of Cressage. After being flooded countless times, it was decided enough was enough, and a new church was built on this raised higher ground, well away from being flooded. Yeah, there is actually a painting of the medieval Church of St Sampson done by the Reverend Williams in 1785. Between 1786 and 1791, the Reverend Edward Williams made a pictorial record of most of Shropshire's parish churches. He must have been busy in them 5 years because he made watercolour paintings of most of them. He was well thought of. The Gentleman's Magazine, volume 153, called him an excellent draftsman who had also studied much of botany. The Annals and Magazine of Natural History went on to say, zoology and botany, that his studies included a catalogue of all the plants which he had detected during many years' careful herbalisation of the county of Salop, for which his accuracy is well known and perfect reliability can be placed on any plant which he recorded. He sounds like an absolutely fascinating guy to know, to be honest, the Reverend Williams, and his work invaluable to any person interested in Shropshire or Salop, and especially if you're out investigating it. The architect for Christchurch Cressage was Edward Haycock Sr. He was a notable architect and designed such things as Lord's Hill Column in Shrewsbury, assisted by Thomas Harrison, the Salop Infirmary, the rebuild of it, now known as the Parade, Monmouthshire Hall, Old Town Hall Ellesmere, Cardiff, the Market, and Shrewsbury St Chad's School in 1859, and the Lancasterian School, which we have showed on third-rate content, also in Shrewsbury, on last year's Castlefields video, which is available to watch. I'll leave a link down below. Yeah, I don't think many graves are going to get dug with that one. It's had its day, I think. I'm sure, in fact. It's a shame the church is shut because there's some really nice stained glass on the eastern window. It's the work of David Evans. And it was paid for by the Reverend Scott in 1843. Hopefully one day we'll come back here and we'll have a look inside, but it was thoroughly locked up today, the church. That's a much better spade, although it's a gardening spade, it isn't for digging graves. The churchyard here does have an unkempt and slightly unloved feel to it. Not quite as much as the semi-abandoned graveyard in Ludlow, but there's definitely a feeling that it's not in full use anymore. Right, we've got another church to visit at Shenton. The village is about 1.25 miles away, so let's hit the road. Yeah, just before we leave Cressage, it's actually 1.5 miles according to that, on foot to Shenton. I'll just bring it to your attention, obviously the old oak tree that St. Augustine preached from in the 7th century, allegedly, was here. St. Sampson's Church would have just been over that way near the River Severn. I was just talking to a local in Cressage here, and I just, got chatting and was talking about what I was doing today, and I said I'm off to Shenton now, and he corrected me in the pronunciation. It's actually Shighton, and I'm not joking. That is actually the correct pronunciation, so I'll stick to that now. We're off to Shighton. So let's start again. The chap also filled me in on the Eagles Hotel. He said it's owned by a builder, but the chap who's got it has got that much work on at the moment that he just hasn't got around to converting it. So it's on the cards that will be converted into dwellings at some point soon. But just going back, I have got a little personal anecdote about the Eagles. When I was a plumber, it was like for a country estate round this area. They had a wood mill as well, and a lot of workers in said wood mill. And I always used to have my dinner, my lunch, with the guys from the wood mill, while the guy I worked with went off and went home to his family. And one of the blokes who worked in the wood mill, it always stuck out to me, the Eagles, because he used to call it the Eagles with a D rather than a G. So I always remembered that, the Eagles, every time I drive past it. And the guy, I'm not mentioning any names, probably not with us anymore, he got sacked from the wood mill because he was stealing a shed, but he was doing it a bit a day, like the classic stealing a car. Someone who works in a car factory stealing the bit a day, but he was stealing the shed that way. But he got found out before the shed was erected, I believe, and fired from the job. So yeah, there's a little story for you. There was a really bad fire here on Severn Way several years ago. Yeah, and I meet people a little bit later on in the walk who tell me all about it. They were directly affected by it, so I'll relay the story to you. So thank you for watching to the end of today's third rate content. Hope you enjoyed our little walk around Cressage. Next week we will continue our country walk with Shighton. The video would have been a little bit long, I think. When I was editing it, I realised it was going to run a bit long, so I broke it into two. And I hope you come back next week to watch the continuation of it, and we'll hear a bit more about that story of the fire on Severn Way, and we will visit the beautiful church of Shighton. So thanks for watching to the end. If I don't see you soon, I'll see you 3 times as soon. If you want, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And otherwise, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.